Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, family communication, child development, and how to create those strong family bonds. And I do that through the lens of the principle self-government. In this video, I'm going to be talking about permissive parenting versus laziness. So there is a difference between permissive parenting and laziness. Permissive parenting can stem from laziness, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So in this video, we're going to talk about permissive parenting, what that looks like a little bit. Then we're going to spend some time talking about laziness in parenting. And then we're going to talk about how to conquer the laziness and the permissive parenting tendencies, because guess what? Both of them are probably not going to get you the results that you want. So we'll give you some skills and things that you can do to get on the track of parenting that will bring you the most success. So let's talk about permissive parenting. When people think of permissive parenting, they think of the parent that just allows the child to do whatever they want. So a permissive parent is someone who feels like, well, the child is probably just going to kind of go through life and they'll figure it out. And well, they want that. It makes them happy. So I'll go ahead and give that to them. The permissive parent has a tendency to lean more toward what the child is feeling. So that's the difference between the two, and we'll be talking about laziness here in a minute, but the child is the focus for most permissive parents, okay? So they're saying, well, I want my child to be happy, I want my child to like me, I want my child to succeed, and there are many permissive parents that work their fingers to the bone to try to serve their children. They take them here and there, all the different activities, sign them up for all the clubs and classes. They are doing so many things to help their child get what they want or what they think would make their life easier or happier. Now there's a difference with the just straight up lazy parent. So lazy parents can end up being permissive parents. They can say, I don't want to deal with a lot of stuff, so I'll just let the child have whatever they want. Okay, so that can lead to permissiveness. And oftentimes when people talk about permissive parenting, they're probably going to hook the two ideas together, that there's a percentage that are lazy, percentage that work really hard to try to get their child what they want. But in the end, it's just kind of like, not wanting to do the effort of the correcting and the teaching and stuff like that. The thing with the lazy parent is their whole reason for really like giving in to the child or letting the child just kind of run wild and do whatever they feel like they want to do is actually because they don't want to deal with it. So the permissive parent that we talked about earlier usually is still thinking, what does my child want? What would make my child happy? And the parent could be working like crazy. But the lazy parent is like, what do I want? What would make me happy? And so they are just not doing all kinds of stuff so that they can have their time to do things for themselves, okay? That's a little bit different. I mean, the two definitely play off each other and they can combine together, but neither one of them are going to be beneficial. Both of them are putting the focus in the wrong direction. If you're thinking, what would make my child happy, or what does my child want? Or if you're thinking, what would make me happy and what do I want, you actually have missed the mark, because true happiness does not really come from always getting what you want. In fact, I'm sure there are many stories of the people who ask for something, some wish or something from a genie, but in the end they go, I don't think that's what I really wanted, and now I'm not happy. I thought I wanted that, but I didn't, right? So there's many stories about that. So I think we can just say that is a principle. Happiness and what you want aren't necessarily connected together. So that means that we have to have a different focus. And the principle that I like to focus on when I'm determining which direction to go with my parenting is the principle of ought. O-U-G-H-T, ought. What ought I to do? And for the benefit of the child, who ought I to be in their life? And I know that sounds a little awkward to phrase it like that, but really, we all do have an ought. And if we focus on who we know we ought to become, then that changes the reason behind all of our parenting interactions. We're going to talk about how to not be a lazy or permissive parent and what the solutions are, what they look like for you, some things that you can take going forward. But first, click that subscribe button. There are a ton of great videos on this channel. They come out all the time and you're not going to want to miss them. In fact, while you're at it, click the notification bell too, so that you can get notified when new videos are ready. It's super common in our society for people to focus on how they are feeling. All right. And while we do need to acknowledge I feel this way, or I might need to make an adjustment here, I think we need to be very careful, especially when we are parents and we're supposed to be watching out for other people. So we actually find the greatest happiness when we are serving the other people. Our bond to them grows when we serve them. So if we start thinking about our feelings and our desires too much, then we actually inhibit our ability to bond with our children because we start thinking about what we didn't get. They start looking like the people that are in the way. This will lead us toward laziness and more permissive parenting, and in the end will not give us the outcomes that we want with our children. So children actually show the greatest gains if they have a good bond with their parents. This is huge. People don't talk about this very much, but they should. This should be like put on a billboard. You want your child to be happy and successful in life? Bond to them, connect to them, spend time with them. This is so important. Talk to them a lot. Those types of things need to be messaged. Do you want them to have better mental health? Bond. You want them to have better social life? Bond. You want them to do better in business? Bond. It's true. That bond is huge. So as a parent who's trying to create better outcomes for your children, you need to recognize the power of truly bonding and connecting with them. And you cannot bond and connect with them very well if your focus is on how you feel, what you want, and what you got out of it. So even though we do need to be aware of our mental health, our physical health, and some of our needs, we need to definitely not obsess over those things. I hear so many parents nowadays talking about how, oh, well, the kids are just such a burden. They're just such in the way. And you see it all over social media, people laughing at their children, poking fun at their children, talking about how bad their children are and how they don't like it and how it's the worst part of life. And I'm thinking, you have done this to yourself. You have decided that you are the best part of life, and anything else that gets in your way is the worst. And that is absolutely an entitled viewpoint of life. We can't do that. So there's my massive caution, my little bit of a soapbox there, just talking about where we have missed the mark as a society. So let's talk now about skills that can help. All right, so if you want to make sure that you are going in a good forward direction and you are not giving into laziness or permissiveness, then you've got to decide ahead of time what type of a family ought we to be. Who am I supposed to be, and how do I point my children toward who they are supposed to become as well? Obviously, in my mind, God's the author of that. We don't just go, oh, well, I think this is who I want to be, and that's my ought. There's a difference. We can tell inside. There are characteristics of people that resonate with us, maybe honest. I ought to be honest. I ought to be persistent. I ought to be hardworking. I ought to be, those are all the oughts that we know, and they oftentimes come back to our core values and beliefs. Keep focused on those things. If you're a God-fearing person, it's going to come back to who God wants you to be or is expecting you to become. And that's going to bring you peace as you find alignment with that, right? Anyway, once you establish that for yourself, then you need to say, okay, now we've got this picture. So I always talk about creating a family vision or a picture for the family going forward. So you create this picture of where you're headed for the future, and then you create a communication system that helps you achieve that vision, okay? Super important. So you've got to have a plan. In our family, there are certain skills that we all know. We know how to follow instructions, accept no answers and criticism, accept consequences, disagree appropriately, correct negative behaviors, handle out of control behaviors, praise each other in a way that's meaningful, and increase an environment that's full of calmness and understanding. We have those skills as a family because we decided ahead of time that those were the things that would help us become the family that we ought to become. And so we learned them ahead of time and then deliberately corrected them along the way. So if you are not going to be permissive, you have to have a plan and you have to be consistent in your correction and direction of the children. That's your only chance. Because guess what? The permissive parent is just reactive, following the child. The lazy parent is kind of selfish, and they could either become permissive or they could easily become bully fear-based as well. A bully fear-based parent is also manipulating children to try to get outcomes, just like your permissive parent is. The only parent that is not is the planned out parent. I call them the traditional strict parent because they have to be consistent and follow through with all the teaching all the time. They can't be afraid of it. They have to embrace it, want to do it. They need to talk to their children about more things, discuss life and the news and stuff in detail. They need to not be afraid to morally train their children. Those are the types of parents who end up having a greater impact on the lives of their children. And they're not permissive. They're taking a very active role, but they are not doing it so that the child can control them, but so that they can guide the child. That is the difference. So if you are going to be an assertive parent, or what I call a traditional strict parent, or some people call it an authoritative parent, if you are going to be that type of parent, then you have to be the type of person that embraces the opportunity to guide your child again and again, not just facilitate nice things for them, but to truly guide them, which means correct them too, which means they could act like they hate you some days. And that's okay, because they don't know what they don't know. They don't have enough life experience yet. They only know how they feel. And if we spend all of our time focusing on feelings, then we do not get the time that we need to move forward in life. Feelings are important. I have other videos about those. Emotions, they're all important parts of who we are, but we've got to make sure that we keep them all in the proper context so that we can solve our problems, bond together, and have the greatest outcomes. If you've enjoyed this video, I know that you will probably love the free gift that I have for you. So in the description below this video, there is a link to my Calm Parenting Toolkit, and I would like to give it to you for free. So if you click on the link, teachselfgov.com/toolkit, and you go to that Calm Parenting Toolkit, you can have it for free. So go to the description now and click on the link. I'll see you there.